This is spring test number 6. This will be part 2. We're picking up on number 6 on our study guide. It says graph each system, tell whether the system has no solution, one solution, or infinitely many solutions. A quick sketch of these graphs, rather than graphing them perfectly, will do an okay job of telling you these answers right here, 1, 2, or 3. No solution, one solution, or infinitely many. If you graph these, notice both of them start, their b values are -5 and -3, so we're going to have to start way down here. And over 1, your first equation, if we put it, your b value is -5, so start at -1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. It tells you to go down 5 and to the right 1, so your first equation will look like that. Your second equation says to start at -3 and also go down 5 and to the right 1 time. So the equation, oh, a little bit straighter than that. The equation will look like that. Notice we have parallel lines there. If you have lines that are parallel, there'll never be that one point where both of your lines cross each other. There'll never be that one point. And since there's never that one point, there's no solution to that system of inequalities. But without even graphing this, you could have noticed that the slope values for both of them were the same. Both of their m values were -5. So without even graphing this, you could have been able to tell that they were parallel lines, and there's no solution. No solution. Number 7, notice y equals -5x plus 5. That slope value is -5. Let's convert the other equation where we can see mx plus b. Get rid of -5 by adding it. Do the same to the other side. Notice this equation gives you y equals -5x plus 5. Look at the m values for both of them. -5 for the first one, and your m value for your second one is also -5. So immediately you think, if you're thinking back to number 6, those are parallel lines as well. They're never going to cross each other. But then look at the b value. Look at your y-intercept value. It is also the same for both of them. And since it's also the same, when you graph that equation, which will look something like this, or maybe not even that shallow, probably more steep like this, when you graph that equation, the other equation will graph directly on top of it. It'll be exactly on top of it the entire way, which means they'll cross each other infinitely many times. Anytime you have the exact equation, meaning exact same m and exact same b value, it is the same equation. So the answer to this, if you're answering it the way they're asking, they will cross infinitely many times, meaning that you cannot count how many times they'll cross. For number 8, you can look at the m values right away, 5 and -4, and see that they are different. And since they're different values, they are neither the same line nor are they parallel lines. Therefore, there will be a point when you look at them, there will be a point that they'll graph. The first one will look something like that, and the second one will look something like this, a little bit lower than that probably. But there will be that one point when you sketch them out where they will cross each other. But and again, without even ever graphing them or without even ever showing that picture, you can tell by the fact that the m values were different from each other that there will be one point where they both cross. They'll cross at one point or one solution. Number 9 says use substitution to solve the following system of equations. You have 3 of them. I'll spend just a minute or so talking about this one tomorrow, but I'm not going to go into a detailed explanation because it'll take far too long. So I decided to go ahead and make this one as bonus. There'll be 3 or 4 of you guys that should be able to handle this problem, though, if you take a few minutes and look at it and actually put some time into it. It's not super hard. It just has 3 of them compared to the 2 that we've been looking at. This one's a little bit more our speed, other than the fact that we have to create our own equations. It says the length of a rectangle. So length of a rectangle is, remember, is always equals 3 centimeters more. So 3 more than means plus 4 times the width. 4 times the width. So that's the first equation. Length equals 3 more than 4 times the width. Then it gives us another equation. It gives us perimeter. P equals 76 centimeters. So those are the two it gave us. Now what we need to use is we actually need to use the formula for perimeter. Perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. You've used that before you ever got in this class, and we've used this equation or this formula here several times this year so far. All we're going to do at this point is we're going to plug in the values we have in order to find out what we don't have. So we'll leave everything in black that will stay the same, and we'll plug in everything else. So if it says P equals 76, that means in place of P, and in this case here's P, we can plug in a number 76. Also tells us that L is 3 plus 4W. That means in place of L, we can plug in 3 plus 4W. All we did was substituted in those two values. But notice we went from having a P, a L, and a W, 3 variables, to now we only have W represented. So we can solve to find out what W is. Make sure you distribute 2 times 3 gives you 6, and 2 times 4W gives you 8W. Bring everything else down. 76 equals plus 2W at the end. Combine your like terms. You have 8W and 2W. When you put those two together, you get 10W. It's positive 10W. That's why it becomes plus 10W. Bring everything else down. 6 and 76. Get rid of positive or plus 6 by subtracting it. Do the same from the other side. And you have 70 equals 10W. And get rid of 10 times something by dividing 10 to get your width value, or your W equals 7. So you have the value of W, it's 7. That's your width. That was the first thing you were looking for, the first thing you were able to get. Take that value, and in your equation here, L equals 3 plus 4W. All we did was took this one and brought it over. We can plug in our new value for W, 7, in place of W. So L equals 3 plus 4 times, now we have the value for W, 7. 4 times 7 gives us 28, and 3 plus that positive 28, L's value equals 31. So it asks you for the dimensions. Your width is 7, and your length is 31, and both of those are respectively centimeters. 7 and 31. Number 11 says solve the system using substitution. It says y equals 4x plus 10 and y equals 2x plus 6. So for the first equation, y equals 4x plus 10, and the second equation, y equals 2x plus 6. This is your value for y in the first equation, 4x plus 10. So if that's what y is equal to, that means in the second equation, we can plug it in place of y. So if the second equation says y equals 2x plus 6, in place of y, we can plug in that value, 4x plus 10, because that's what y equals. Now we have variables on both sides. Get rid of, put your smaller variable to the same side as your larger variable. 4x is larger, so let's move positive 2x over by subtracting it. Do the same to the left side, and you get 2x plus 10 equals 6. Get rid of positive 10 by subtracting it. Do the same to the other side, and you have 2x equals negative 4, and get rid of 2 times something by dividing it. Do the same to the other side. You have x's value as negative 2. Once you have x's value as -2, bring it and put it back into one of the equations. The second equation looks like it has smaller numbers to me. Y equals 2x plus 6. So let's put it in place of that one. Y equals 2 plus 6. We'll bring that value for x and plug it in place of x. Instead of that, we'll put in -2. 2 times -2 is -4 plus 6. And y's value equals +2. So now you have x and y. Your solutions to your systems are always written as an ordered pair, x comma y. So you'd write it as -2 comma 2. Y equals 4x minus 5 and y equals 2x minus 7. Almost an identical problem. Just make sure that you substitute in one portion for the other. Y equals 4x minus 5 and y equals 2x minus 7. So if this is your value for y, we'll plug that in place of y. 4x minus 5 equals 2x minus 7. Move your x terms over to the larger side. Get rid of it by subtracting 2x. Do likewise here, and it gives you 2x. You still have minus 5 equals, you still have -7. Get rid of -5 by adding 5 to both sides. And you still have 2x equals, now you have -2. Get rid of 2 times something by dividing by 2 on both sides. X is -1. You have x's value at -1. Plug that into one of the equations on top. Again, it does not matter which one you choose. Y equals 2x minus 7 looks easier to me just because there's a 2. Plug in place of x, y equals 2 times x minus 7. X's value is now -1. So 2 times -1 is -2 minus 7. Y's value is -9. So x comma y is -1 comma -9 as your solution. A little bit of a shorter problem here. Y equals 4x plus 3 is your first equation. And y equals 5x is your second one. Easier to take the shorter or the smaller value and put it into the longer equation, in my opinion. So take 5x and put it in place of y. So 5x equals 4x plus 3. Move your x's to the left side or to the larger side by subtracting positive or plus 4x. Do the same from both sides. Leaves you with 1x equals 3. Notice how much shorter that one is. X equals 3. Take that equation and plug it into one of the equations. Again, the shorter one. Plug it in place of this one here. Y equals 5x becomes y equals 5 times. Now we have a value for x, positive 3. So y's value equals 15. Again, x comma y, 3 comma 15 as an ordered pair. This one's a little bit longer, 3x plus 2y equals 7, and y equals -3x plus 11. Again, though, plug in the one that you already have isolated. You already have y's value listed as -3x plus 11. So in the other equation, 3x plus 2 times y, now you have a value you can plug in equals 7. Take that value, -3x, and in place of y, plug in -3x plus 11. Make sure you include the parentheses where you don't forget to distribute the 2 to both terms. 2 times -3x becomes -6x, and 2 times 11 becomes +22. Bring 3x down. Combine your like terms. 3x and -6x combine to -3x. Bring down +22 equals 7. Subtract 22 to get rid of +22. Do the same to this side. And -3x equals -15. Get rid of negative 3 times something by dividing negative 3. Divide negative 3 on this side. X equals 5. So now you have x's value as 5. Take one of the equations, looks again like the second equation would be the most easy one or the most useful one. Y equals negative 3x plus 11, and in place of x, we're going to plug in our value. Y equals negative 3 times, in this case, we have the value 5. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15 plus 11. And when you add negative 15 plus 11, y equals negative 4. So you have x and y's value. X comma y is 5 comma negative 4.